All right, everybody, here we are again, and it's time to move on. No more causes of the American Revolutionary War. It's now time to actually fight the American Revolutionary War. Now, according to the standards, you need to basically be able to tell this. Here's an EQ for you, or an essential question. What were the ideological, the military, and the diplomatic aspects of the American Revolution? The ideological, you have to say, parts of the American Revolution. The ideas that went into why we fought it, who's involved. This might include the Declaration of Independence. Includes Thomas Paine, which you already know about. John Locke, which you learned about last year. We'll look at that again. Montesquieu, which you learned about last year as a sophomore. And then lastly, the role of Thomas Jefferson. That's the ideological. Next, we have the military aspects of it. This is the training at Valley Forge. And you don't need to know too many battles, but there's some worth mentioning. It started at Lexington and Concord. Some major battles might be the Battle of the Bulge. It's more interesting than it is major. We have Saratoga, the Battle of Trenton. That's pretty cool. And the one you have to know, which is on the standards, is Yorktown. And we'll talk about Yorktown in just a minute. And then lastly is the diplomatic aspects. And that's basically going to take us to one person and his involvement with our ally at the time, or the colonist ally, I should say. And that one person is, anybody know it? Think of kite, lightning, inventions. He does a little bit of everything. That is, yes, Benjamin Franklin, who will be a diplomat to France. And France will be that ally that we need so badly in order to win this war. All right, here we go. All right, let's start this adventure with first looking at the ideological aspects of the American Revolution. And it's all summed up in the Declaration of Independence. Basically what you have here is Thomas Jefferson will write the thing. He'll write down the first draft, and then a few revisions will be made by our second president, which is John Adams, and then one of our another founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. All right, because the Declaration of Independence is going to address basically everybody in the world, its language is made very simple and very direct. So people will have an easy time to understand it and maybe sympathize with the colonists and understand why they got to kick the tails of all them redcoats, the British we're talking about. Now, two other important people are going to be involved with this Declaration of Independence, but they're dead. That's John Locke and then Charles de Montesquieu. Now, John Locke, which is a British philosopher, basically his ideas were that there's these things that you get when you're born. They're called your natural rights. So when you come out of your mama, you are given by God to you your natural rights, which are life, liberty, and he said property, and then we'll change it to the pursuit of happiness. So John Locke, he will give us life, liberty, and property, which are our natural rights. They naturally are given to us by God, from the divine. Okay, then next we have this French philosopher, or political thinker. His name is Charles de Montesquieu. All right, and he'll come up with this idea that government should be divided. It's called federalism. We'll look at that later on. He basically came up with the three branches of government. Montesquieu, the three branches of government, or a division in government. So there will not be one head in charge, but three that will fight each other and keep government from becoming too strong and not take over our lives. There's your ideological aspects of the American Revolutionary War. Now, let's spend just a few moments and look at just the Declaration of Independence itself. It's basically broken up into parts. All right. First thing it does is explains the philosophical and legal reasons for seeking independence from Britain. All right. Then the Declaration will have its longest section. And basically what it does, it says, he did this and he did that. And we're talking about King George III. And it's naming the many reasons or many things that he has done to actually violate the colonists right. And then it began to say, they did this and they did that. It's talking about how Parliament, the lawmakers in England, also violated the rights of the colonists. Okay, all right, then it will end, and basically it'll say that we have tried to get what we want, our independence, other ways. Think of what's called the Olive Branch Petition. We tried doing it peacefully, but the King of England basically said, no, I'm the king, you're going to do what I'm telling you guys, and I want to control you, so let's fight. And the colonists are like, okay, let's go, let's get it on. We want our own government, here is what we're going to do, and now let's fight. The Declaration of Independence. Alright, now let's look at some of the military aspects of the American Revolutionary War. And what's funny is the standards do not actually have you remember some of the fun battles, or I should say the interesting battles, which first started off with Lexington Concord. That's where the British are coming, the British are coming. Paul Revere's Midnight Ride's a good story and all. We'll look at it anyways. You have another one interesting like the Bunker Hill. That's a fun battle where a lot of women and children are entertained because the battle actually took place on Breed's Hill, but they looked from Bunker Hill as they thought it would be a sweet little short, fun little skirmish, but it ended up being bloody and people were grossed out. It was quite incredible. You have some other battles there we won't mention right this minute, but the last one is only one you have to know for the standards, which is the Battle of Yorktown, and that is where the American colonists will finally win, and we'll talk about that one in a second. But right now, let's look at who will become the Commander-in-Chief. He's not president yet, but he's the Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. His name is George Washington. We've all heard of him. But basically why he became the leader, because of his extraordinary leadership abilities. When he stepped into the room, everybody was willing to listen to him. He was the man they looked to when problems were happening. If they had to get somebody out and about doing what they needed to do, George Washington was the man to motivate. All right, so basically what he had to do is take a bunch of ragtag farmers and hunters and basically get them together and then train them and turn them into a professional military, because they are going to have to fight the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. That is England or Britain, whatever you want to call it, or Great Britain. The most powerful nation on the earth. Wow, I hear you. The most powerful nation on the earth is going to go against a bunch of little colonists. And can he turn them into professional soldiers? Let's find out. So basically, if you're a common soldier in this Continental Army, life is going to be extremely hard. You enlisted, it may last for 1 to 3 years. You didn't get paid very much. There was no equipment. It wasn't the American Army that you think of today. You might bring your own weapons. You may just show up and not have any weapons. You may fight in your regular old clothes. You're just very ragtag. You don't have anything that's really nice. All right, many will be killed. You'll have stern discipline coming on you. You're not gonna, basically what's gonna happen about the first part of this war is this morale is gonna be extremely low. Everybody will be very unhappy and wonder if this was worth fighting. Maybe they should just give in to the British because things are so bad. So what George Washington does is he starts an intense training program in a place in Pennsylvania in the winter of 1777 and 1778. And this is in, I think you know it, Pennsylvania, the winter. That's right, Valley Forge. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania will not be a battle, but a place where they'll be trained, all right? All right, the problems that the armies had to face, low wages and housing and food and clothing and equipment, were at their worst at this time. Diseases started to run through the camp. All right, there was around 12,000 soldiers there, and almost 4,000 of them were just basically too weak or too ill to fight or train or figure anything out. But Washington said, "We will train!" And it became like a modern boot camp, and I imagine quite worse. It wasn't just push-ups and pull-ups and running around. It was a lot more than that. Some of them had to learn how to pull a trigger on a gun because they hadn't done that, because they're basically just farmers. Okay. The end result of the training at Valley Forge is best explained by this. On Christmas night of 1776, remember that year, 1776, Washington will take his troops out of Valley Forge, and they will go and they will have a victory against not the British, but some guys that the British hired called Hessian mercenaries. That means they are hired, they're actually Germans. Over here, they're hired to come over here and basically kill us. All right, we go, we fight them at this battle called Trenton, and we kick their butts. Morale, will be awesome. Everybody's jumping up and down there thinking, man, we just beat professional soldiers. You know, we're not just farmers. We can beat professional soldiers. And this is kind of going to give us a push into continuing this fight so that we can be independent, have our own country, and no longer colonists. Thank you, George Washington. All right, let's continue this story here of the American Revolution. We looked at the ideological aspects with the Declaration of Independence, John Locke, Montesquieu, Thomas Jefferson. All right, now let's look at, we also looked at some of the military aspects. We're going to kind of blend it right here at the end with this last part where you have to tell us about the diplomatic aspects of the American Revolutionary War. So basically what this is going to be, this is going to be a huge turning point. We're going to take probably our most influential, important person at the time. Maybe he is, maybe he's not, but I think he is right now. His name is Benjamin Franklin. He will be the American ambassador or diplomat to England's enemy. Can you say it? Who's England's enemy? They can't stand these people. They've been fighting forever. That's right. First letter starts with the F, R, A. That's right. It's the French. Or France. So Benjamin Franklin's going to go to France. And he's going to try to convince the French to form a military alliance with the colonists or the Americans now. And then guess what? France agreed to wage war against Britain until America gains its independence. So facing both an American and a French front, the French front will be in Europe and the American front will be over here in the colonies. Britain's going to have to pull some of its troops out of America to start fighting over there in Europe. So this is going to be good. All right. French support for America will be personified in one French person you need to know. His name is, this guy is awesome. Check him out in his blue suit. His name is Marquis de Lafayette. And we have a lot of cities in the United States like Lafayette, Louisiana, Lafayette, Texas, Lafayette, Georgia, Lafayette, Alabama. They're named after and in honor of Marquis de Lafayette and all his help that he gave us in training our soldiers and commanding our soldiers and helping them fight and fighting with them so that we can beat the English. All right? So this will best be explained of what he did is going to be the last battle. All right? So what the British do is this. They send their smartest, their best commander over to the colonies and say, go kick those colonists' butt. Finish this war now. Finish this revolution now. Put it down. His name is General Lord Cornwallis. General Lord Cornwallis. All right. So he's over here. And his plan basically is he wants to divide the colonies in half. If he splits them in half and has the North and the South divided, maybe we'll be weak enough where we can't do anything else. So, but this is what happens. Cornwallis is arrogant enough to basically allow himself to be surrounded. All right? You're going to have Marquis de Lafayette coming in on one side. You're going to have the French Navy coming in on the other side. Lord Cornwallis will be surrounded. He'll be humiliated. He'll be beat by a bunch of ragtag farmers. This is awesome. And this battle is called Yorktown. Yorktown. Y-O-R-K, town. Lord Cornwallis will have to surrender. But he's so ashamed that he will not surrender himself. But he'll send his first officer out to surrender to a bunch of colonists. And this will bring us to an end of the American Revolutionary War. Marquis de Lafayette and the French will come along and help us out. And we'll beat the British. It'll be awesome. And that'll take us to the next Treaty of Paris of 1783. All right, here we go. We're about done now. The war's over. We're celebrating. It's kind of like, what do we do now? Look, we got ourselves a country. All right, here we are. Here's our country right here. You know, it's big, isn't it? No, we've got a long ways to go. Our history's going to be fun as we go that way. So, the Treaty of Paris of 1783, basically what it did is that in the American Revolutionary War, the United States won its independence from Britain and gained control of land stretching all the way to the Mississippi River. So what you see right here, all the way up to the Great Lakes, that is now the United States. None of it's been explored. We don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to make states. We got to figure it all out. It's going to be fun as we continue this. But welcome to America. The Revolutionary War is now over. Okay, some other things happened to Britain too is this. Britain, it gave or ceded Florida, right down here, to Spain. So this is going to belong to the Spanish for a little while, and we'll eventually get it. All right, and then certain African and Caribbean colonies will end up going to France. And that's all, folks. I wonder what we're going to do. We've got all this land. Are we going to have to make our own government? Yes. That's going to be our next standard. Let's find out about the Constitution. Tune in next time.